The reason why it was the right time is that the program has completely imploded since a year ago when Florida was playing for the SEC championship against Alabama. Yeah, they had that really close game against the Tide this year. They needed a 2-point conversion to tie, but since then, it has been an absolute disaster. Losing to Kentucky, losing and getting blown out by schools like South Carolina, lost in overtime to Missouri, got waxed by Georgia, which is no great shame. But the accumulation of all that and the fact that Dan Mullen is not exactly a likable coach at times forced the administration there to say, you know what, the situation here is toxic. We are going to make a change.
When you look at what happened to Dan Mullen at Florida, who would you hire as the next coach, Paul, to bring in that is not going to repeat the same mistakes that Dan Mullen did, which is major in terms of one violation in terms of recruiting?
That's really the problem, Keyshawn. If you look at Florida's history in the last 30 years, they've had 2 successful coaches and 4 coaches who were fired. The 2 successful are obvious, Spurrier and Urban Meyer, and everybody else has been somewhat of a disaster. This is the 3rd straight coach at Florida who has been fired. Will Muschamp, McElwain, and now Mullen. And Mullen looked like a good selection. He was the 3rd choice. It's worth remembering the first 2 were Chip Kelly and Scott Frost. Neither has really done all that much since they turned that job down. But he had a good track record at Mississippi State, but he didn't do the most important thing you have to do at a major SEC school, and that's recruit at the highest level. He was able to develop some good players. I mean, last year he had Pitts and Kyle Trask, and he's had some other ones, but he couldn't hang with Jimbo Fisher, Nick Saban, and especially Kirby Smart. And he didn't even look like, Keyshawn, he liked to recruit. That was the most bizarre part of it. He had no appetite for doing what you have to do in recruiting, and that's recruit almost every day. Well, not almost every day of the year, 24/7. And I think he is a brilliant play caller. He's a great developer of quarterbacks, Dak Prescott being his prized pupil. But ultimately, he could not cut it at this level. So where does the school go? They want an offensive coach. That's why Mullen was hired. They've had defensive coaches. Lane Kiffin is a name you have to look at. Billy Napier from Louisiana is not that well known, but he's been at Clemson and at Alabama. And after that, it's literally going through the same list that we have regurgitated here every week since the beginning of the season.
Paul, as a fan of the Chicago Bears, I wouldn't want this, but yesterday Dan Orlovsky suggested that Dan Mullen would be the next head coach of the Chicago Bears. What would your thought about that be?
I could see it. Mullen, for about a year, has let it be known that he would like to go to the NFL, and I think the reason why he would do okay in the NFL is that he fits that system more. He's a play caller. He's just not a great people person. He was always fighting with the media, which you do you do in the NFL, but it's not quite as important if you win. Nobody cares what you say as long as you're a playoff contender. Or in college football, you have to get along. You have to go to clubs. You have to grease the wheels of the system. So I think that could happen. And I'll say it again, just because you don't make it at Florida doesn't mean you're not a good coach. A lot of people have failed there. So I would not rule anything out. It's just a matter of whether an owner can sit down with Dan Mullen and take a good look at him and say, you know what, I think he's the guy. But when Dak Prescott is going to sing your praises, and he's not the only one. He's tutored other good quarterbacks as well, from Alex Smith to Tim Tebow. But Prescott is obviously his masterpiece, and so I think it's possible.
Meantime, when was the last time a dream matchup in college football didn't include Alabama? But after what Ohio State just did, how likely, right? Like, oh my, Georgia's defense, Ohio State's offense. How likely is it that Ohio State jumps Alabama in the rankings this week?
They should, and I think they will, because Ohio State looked to everyone last week as the second best team in the country. And Alabama, they're still good, but they're struggling. I mean, they're having to hold on against Arkansas. Arkansas had an onside kick that would have put them in a one-possession game on the final possession of the game. They just cannot finish teams off. They don't have any team chemistry. They have either the best or second best quarterback in the country in Bryce Young. They have good receivers. They have a lot of talent. They have maybe the best player in the country in Will Anderson. But ultimately, they can't quite put it together to be at the highest level. I mean, they're still going to be third tonight. I think Cincinnati will be fourth. You could see the committee play games with Michigan, knowing that they could very well lose in 5 days. But right now, to the dismay of many people in college football, it looks like Cincinnati is about to claim a playoff berth with 2 more wins.
Hey, Paul, what are you hearing about Mel Tucker signing his extension with Michigan State in the tunes of $95 million? Did he sign it, or is he still waiting, or are they having buyer's remorse? Like, what's going on in East Lansing right now?
Yeah, so for those who haven't followed this, it looked like LSU was after Mel Tucker, and so was everyone else. And the school went deep to its boosters and were able to come up with this $95 million extension. The only problem is he went out and laid the biggest egg of the season Saturday at Ohio State, and all of a sudden people are saying, "What are we buying here?" It's like going to the car lot and putting your hard-earned money down on a car. You sign the papers, and as soon as you come off the lot, it literally it quits running. I don't know if he signed it. I don't think he signed it because I think the school would have announced it. I believe he'll stay there.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.